In my last video, I did American single malts from San Jose, California. This episode, we're heading to Texas. Let's do this. Welcome to Whisky Riffs. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. My name's Kevin, and today I have a continuation of the American single malt trend that I started last time in my episode. That was from San Jose, that was 10th Street Distillery. This time it's from Waco, Texas, and this is Balcones Texas Single Malt. Now the bottle I have is a cask strength bottle from Craft Whiskey Club, but they also offer this bottle in cask strength version in the stores. So let me go ahead and get this poured, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Now the Balcones Texas Single Malt is a barley-based whiskey. That's what single malt comes from. This is a non-age statement whiskey, but it's aged at least 51 months according to the bottle. It's at 65.4% for this specific bottle. That's never chill filtered and never colored. That's what I like about Balcones. They do a fantastic job of making sure their whiskey is what it is. Another thing I like about them is they age these in New American oak, so it acts just like a new oak scotch. The difference is, as you can see with the bottle and with the color of this glass, this is a very dark single malt for only having a little over 4 years, or maybe a little bit more, in a barrel. That's because of Texas. Texas temperatures in Waco, Texas are volatile. They get very, very hot, and they get pretty darn cold too. So putting a whiskey through that over and over again while it's aging in a barrel causes this extreme darkness. This is not coloring, this is not artificial, this is just what happens in Texas when you age a whiskey. It's very hard to slow age a whiskey in Texas. You would have to fake the climate somehow, but Balcones doesn't fake anything. They're true to their form, and they're just a distillery that I trust because they do so many interesting types of whiskeys. One of my other favorites from them is their Baby Blue, which is a more rare corn instead of using the standard corn that's out there. Now, this distillery was started in 2008. They broke ground on a welding shop and turned it into a distillery. Opened up in 2009 for them to start distilling, and then they grew and grew, eventually taking over a bigger building. I think they opened that in 2016. It used to be the Texas Fireproof Storage Company building, which I guess is about 25 times the size of their original distillery. And this newer building is also intense. It's concrete and heavy duty, built in the 1920s, around 1923. So it's got some history to it, and because they're using copper pot stills from Forsyth of Scotland, this is very traditional in the way they're making it. So you've got new oak, you've got barley, you've got pot stills, and you're using copper. So it's a very cool technique. The only difference is the climate and the environment and the way Texas ages whiskey is extremely different from the colder climates of Scotland. Another cool thing about Texas single malts, American single malts, they're a big umbrella. There's not as much definition to an American single malt as there is, let's say, a Scotch, which has a little more restriction to it. This has very few rules yet. They're kind of hammering all that out. They have been for a few years. Texas likes to say Texas single malt, but really what we're talking about here is the category of American single malt. And this particular bottle was distilled in October of 2016, and it was bottled in January 29th of 2021. So that's what gets you the age on this particular one. Without going through Craft Whiskey Club, you can get a 65% ABV version of this. It's their cask strength version, and it's on store shelves. I saw it at Total Wine for $85, and I also saw the 53% ABV version for about $70. I'm happy to have the higher ABV, even though Texas whiskey can be a little intense at the higher alcohol levels. All right, let's dig into this. I can already get some of the aroma from it. Very different, very nice. That first hint was actually bananas. Now I'm missing that. Now I'm getting some of the heat and the spices. I'm getting kind of a green pepper spice, green pepper note on the nose. Yeah, and I'm still getting some of the banana there, and I'm getting butter. That butter for me is a big note for certain whiskeys that are pot stilled. Normally it's the triple distilled Redbreast Irish whiskey. I don't know why I'm getting it right here, but I'm getting butter on this one. I'm getting just a hint of citrus, maybe some lemon or lime on the nose. Woo, that is a hot whiskey. Wow, that reminds me of Booker's. If you've ever had Booker's, they're single cask distillations. It's a small batch whiskey bourbon, and they are really hot. You get that in your mouth and you're like, whoa, that is intense. This is the same exact way, which makes it a little hard to pick out some flavors. I'm gonna have to go in again. Hang on. Lots of wood spice. A little sour note, a pretty damn long finish. And it's very oily, very thick, and really taste that immediately when I put it in my mouth. It coated my tongue, it coated the back of my throat. Actually, the back of my throat is a little burn right now. There's still a heavy burn from the alcohol level. This has got some heat. I would imagine it goes well with ice on a hot Texas day. If you're trying to cool yourself off, you can put some ice in this whiskey and really treat yourself to a refreshing summer drink. Now, after a couple tastes, I'm getting a buttery note even on the taste, which I don't normally get on taste for whiskey, but I really kind of like it here. I think it's that oiliness. The sweetness there is a fruity sweetness, but it's not a particular fruit I can pick out. I'm getting some bread notes on the taste. Maybe it goes with the butter. I'm definitely getting a lot of spice still. And there's a little bit of a sour note that finishes right at the end. It's like the maltiness and some burnt toast at the end. You know, I wasn't going to put water in this because I figured I'm just going to go with the Balcones full strength. But I think I need to try this with water. I think it needs to be taken down a little bit and see if that changes its behavior. Now, because it's over 65% ABV, I'm going to put a lot of water in this. If you don't knock it down enough, then all you get is a lot of heat and a lot of spice. And I'm really not in the mood for any more spice. This is plenty spicy enough. Adding that much water amped up the buttery note on the nose, and I'm getting more of the banana and a little bit of pear note. Yeah, that made the nose even nicer. And it did take some of the heat off. I don't know if I'm getting different flavors though. I'm getting more of the bitterness, more of the sour, which isn't my favorite part of this, but I'm still getting that burnt toast taste too, which not bad burnt toast, you know, kind of that, the bread with just that roughness to it. It's a rough whiskey. It's definitely taking me for a little bit of a trip here. Yeah, be careful if you take a gulp of this. This will knock you down a little bit. A lot of spice even after some water. I've never had or I don't think I've ever had, I've had a lot of whiskey. I don't remember having the 53% version of this. Have you had the 53% ABV or the cask strength one? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, what you feel about Balcones. I love the distillery. I spent about 29 years in Texas, and I appreciate some of the things that Texas does really well. And one of them is digging in deep and going hard with something like a distillery that's going to use traditional techniques, Scottish techniques, but yet produce something so unique to Texas. And this particular glass of whiskey is really enjoyable. I think it takes a little bit of time to get used to the heat of it, but maybe adding a little bit of water or throwing some ice in might do it for you. Let me know in the comments if you do that as well. Yeah, I think the first hint of water added was my favorite. I didn't like it after I added more water, so a little bit of water might be nice. Your choice, you decide what you want to do. And until next episode, take care of yourself. Take care of those people around you. And cheers.